$1 billion of the state's $17+ billion surplus has been earmarked for housing. Senator Lindsey Port, chair of the Senate Housing and Homelessness Prevention Committee, has called it an historic investment, and she now joins me to talk about some of the initiatives in the omnibus budget bill. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Shannon.
$1 billion is a big sum, particularly because, as you noted in committee, housing typically receives less than 0.5% in a typical state budget. There is a crisis in affordable housing all over the state, both for rental properties and first-time home buyers. How did the situation become so dire?
Yeah, it's such an important question because it really is sort of a cumulative effect. Previous to the 1970s, 1980s, the federal government spent a lot of money on public housing, affordable housing for people with low income. And since the 70s, that number has been just in a free fall of decline of what they send to the states. So programs like Section 8, which help bridge the gap between what people can pay and what rent costs, are so oversubscribed. There's a 15-year wait list. So families who qualify for it don't get the assistance. It's sort of snowballed into this much bigger problem. And then at the state level, because that wasn't really our area, the federal government was supposed to take care of it, we didn't have programs in place to do that. You combine that with the sort of capitalist commoditization of housing, and with things like the bubble in 2008 made investors not sure of whether this is a thing that they wanted to do. And so the investment in housing just has shrunk over the last 50 years, which really trickles down to every community. I think that's the thing, that this is not a metro problem or a greater Minnesota problem. This is a disinvestment really across the country in housing that has now reached a crisis point.
Speaking of the metro, though, the Star Tribune just published an article about how here evictions are outpacing pre-pandemic levels. There is money devoted in the bill to rental assistance. Who would be helped, and how would that help reach those who need it?
Absolutely. There's a couple of different programs. One, the FHPAP, which is the Family Homelessness Prevention Aid Program, which helps families who are not able to make the rent, not able to pay utilities, who need some job training or substance abuse, prevention or treatment. It really sort of looks at what is the problem, stopping people from being in stable housing that they can afford, and attacks that problem. Those are run through the county. It's a regular program that we have, but we put $100 million into it this year. So that's a much bigger investment than we usually put into it. And then in addition to that, there is also, we started this year with this bill, we will start the Bring It Home program, which really builds on that Section 8. It's a state-run voucher system that has the same requirements, but the goal is to fill that gap of people who qualify for housing vouchers but don't get them because the money has run out. And we targeted that specifically towards families with children. Our end goal, between Chair Howard and I, we've talked about this a lot, is to end child homelessness in Minnesota. It is something that is within reach of us if we continue to make sustained investments. And so that really is our goal with this bill.
There are also many folks who are cost burdened, meaning that the portion of their income that they're spending on rent is essentially preventing them from ever being able to save for a down payment on their own home. The package includes down payment assistance. So who would qualify, and how would they get this aid?
Absolutely. This is one of the parts of the bill I'm most proud of. There are two different programs that we invested in for down payment assistance. One is the regular down payment assistance program that Minnesota Housing runs, which helps folks who meet a certain low income threshold, though it's quite high, 200% of the area median income, and helps them with that down payment in either loans or forgivable grants. And so There's a lot of options that exist. We really boosted that program out. The other one is the piece I'm most excited about, which is the first generation homebuyer down payment assistance program. In Minnesota, we have a really shameful gap between families of color who own their homes and white families who own their homes. About 75% of white families in Minnesota own their own home. It's about 25% for black families. So this is really targeted at families, at people who are the first generation of their family to buy a home. And we put a significant couple $100 million into that program to try to help close that gap.
So helping people stay in their homes is one goal. Helping people purchase a home is another goal. But the most confounding concern, it seems to me anyway, is that there's just simply not enough stock in apartments or affordable homes for people to purchase. And not just here in the metro, but greater Minnesota. And I know I've heard multiple reports about businesses that would like to expand, but there's no place for their workers to live. So how will this $1 billion investment tackle this very enormous issue of just lack of buildings?
Absolutely. About $600 million of it, of this $1 billion, is going to that supply problem. It is all across the state. As you said, there are companies up in northern Minnesota who want to expand, who don't want to leave Minnesota. There's literally no place to bring more employees because there's no houses. So there's a Greater Minnesota grant that works with cities and counties to allow for them to invest in that workforce housing, which is a new addition allowing the cities and counties, local municipalities to take advantage of those programs. Then there is bonding in this bill. We have housing infrastructure bonds. We also have cash for housing infrastructure bonds to get those programs going right away. It really is about spanning the entire continuum of housing, from low-income apartments, senior apartments, starter homes, and also homes for folks to upgrade to, workforce housing across the state. It's a huge hole we're in behind on building these units, and so we put a significant amount of money. It's a great use of one-time money because this is something that it just takes money to do. So we are putting a significant amount of one-time money in to help build that pipeline, because also building doesn't happen overnight, and the more stable funding there is looking into the future, the more investors and developers feel comfortable building these big projects that we really need all across the state.
There's two other issues that I'd like to touch on briefly that have been talked about in the legislature for a while. One is mobile home parks, which is a source of affordable housing that are threatened because those parks are being bought by corporate interests. There's also the corporate ownership of single-family homes, where corporate owners are buying up lots of properties and renting them or flipping them, and that's preventing people from getting in. Is that addressed at all in this bill?
I'll start with the mobile home park idea, which is, it's so true. We have really an aging mobile home or manufactured home communities across Minnesota, and the infrastructure is the part that's so critical. And unfortunately, we're seeing some of these communities being bought up by interests outside of Minnesota who don't care if a garbage truck can go down the street or a school bus. And in a lot of these communities, the roads are so damaged that that is no longer possible. So your kid can't get picked up at the school bus, has to go all the way outside of the community to do that, which, we have a significant winter here in Minnesota. So we have revolving grants and loans for infrastructure in this bill, which is a critical piece of it. We're also continuing to work on the opportunity to purchase bill, which is moving separately, that really helps give the folks who live in a community an opportunity to buy the mobile home park. And then the last thing I'll say on the corporate ownership of single-family homes, we do have a bill to address this. It's not in our finance omnibus, but it is something we are continuing to work on because we're seeing it as a critical problem across the state. And we really need to make sure that Minnesotans who want to live in homes can buy homes here in Minnesota, and not just hedge fund operators who can buy up a whole bunch of them for profit.
Senator Lindsey Port, this is a huge bill. I want to thank you so much for just beginning to tackle it today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shannon.